Hi, I'm Lucy and I'm the Head of Sales and Business Development for Usborne Community Partnerships, and I'm here today to talk to you about our February focus books. So we've got three fiction and three main list titles to talk to you about today. So I will start with the fiction. So this is Speed Wheels 3000. So this is the latest Jenny Pearson book. If you're not familiar with Jenny Pearson, her books are posed as like books with humour and heart. They are hilariously funny. And I would say if you have a parent that wants a book that they would enjoy reading with their child, I think Jenny Pearson is your author for that. Books are really, really funny, but they have that sense of heart. So all her books deal with a deeper issue. So again, really good for having those conversations with your own children, for talking to them about the situations that the characters are feeling. But there is always such a great splash of humour throughout. And humour, I think that adults would find really funny too. There was a moment in this book in particular where it felt a bit like a Disney film, because I think some of the humour I found in it, I'm not sure a child would find it humorous in a different way. So yeah, it felt a bit Disney to me in that way. So this tells the story of Evie Clutterbuck, who is desperate for her dad to kind of love her and desperate for her dad to want to spend time with her and to connect with him. Her dad every year enters this competition called Speed Wheels, where it's kind of like wacky races where people have these cars that they've kind of like jazzed up themselves, and they race across Europe between different checkpoints, and they have to complete challenges along the way. And Evie decides that in order to spend more time with her dad, she is going to go on this journey with him. So she hides in the boot of his car and is only discovered when they've crossed the channel into France. And it's then that her dad discovers that Evie has come along for the ride. She manages to convince him to let her stay with him. And they get embroiled in this gold thieving scandal. So the deeper issue in this one, which I think, again, slight trigger warning. So Evie had an older brother that died before she was born. You don't get any details of why he died, but his loss is quite central to the story. So the dad kind of channels this loss into this Speed Wheels competition. And the mum channels it into all these kind of crazy fundraising attempts. So she runs the London Marathon dressed as a bison. She chains herself to trees. And Evie has this kind of sense that she wants to know more about her brother. She never knew him herself, but she wants this connection to him and to her parents. You have got lots of great features in the book. So you've got the race route map, you've got these, where are they? Like profiles of the different drivers. It's illustrated throughout with like really comic, hilarious, illustrative style. You've got little fun facts about the places that they go through. You've got the mile race, the locations, again, more brilliant illustrations. This was a particularly hilarious moment of the book. And so the plot is, so Evie has gone on this adventure with her dad. They have to race from checkpoint to checkpoint. Each checkpoint, they have to complete these wacky challenges. So things like pulling a cloth out from a table which has loads of crockery piled on top of it, using your car without smashing the crockery. They have to race around with a paddling pool full of water on the back of the car and try not to spill the water. All sorts of comedy challenges that you find out about. There are kind of obstacles that come in their way, like a herd of bison blocks the race at one point. And at one of the checkpoints, they find out that a large amount of gold has been stolen from a bank. Evie and her dad discover this gold buried in the protein powder pots that her father's got in the boot of his car. So someone hides the gold in Evie and her dad's car, and they end up in this kind of like car chase. They end up hanging off the edge of a cliff, which is how the book starts, and then you work back to how they ended up hanging off the edge of this cliff. And Evie's trying to work out which of the racers stole the gold. So she's got these kind of like files throughout. I'll see if I can find one. Yeah, so like her investigation notes throughout. So she's trying to work out who stole the gold, and like clear her and her dad's names. There are lots of clues throughout, and it's quite easy as the reader, I think, to work out who is guilty, because Jenny's woven that throughout. So hopefully kids, as they're reading, can work out who they think is guilty, probably before Evie does. But it's hysterically funny. I think potentially Jenny's funniest book yet. I would say it's potentially my favourite Jenny Pearson book to date. And I think it will really appeal to kids who like cars. There's quite a lot of car-based information, who just want something light-hearted and funny, who like adventure books, because just there's so many details. Again, perfect for reluctant readers. It's heavily illustrated, it's simple to read, it's very, very funny, and I think absolutely perfect for parents that want something that they will enjoy just as much as their children are enjoying. There's got a bit more to it than a real kind of slapdash book. So that is the Speed Wheel 3000, The Race Against Crime. Next up is this one, Shadow Hall Academy and Ghost Story Society. This is the second in the Shadow Hall Academy series. I think you don't necessarily need to have read the first one to read this one. So I think if children want to buy this and they haven't read the first one, I don't think that's overly problematic. It does hint slightly at the first one, so there are plot elements that are referred to in this book that came up in the first book. And the only thing I would say is you don't get a massive introduction to the characters in this book, which obviously you get in the first. So I think you are kind of more flung into the story in this one. There's not really a lot of introductions to the characters. But that being said, I know this is a question you get asked a lot. I don't think you need to have read the first one to enjoy this one. So you are back at Shadow Hall Academy with Lillian and her friends, and they have decided to start a ghost story society. So they meet late at night with various other girls from their year, and they decide to tell ghost stories by torchlight. Then one of the older prefects comes along, and she tells the story of this magical book where if you write your secrets in it, your secrets then come to life. And there's a whole story around this drama teacher that had the book in the first place. Then the drama teacher goes missing, never to be seen, suddenly leaves school, never to be seen again. And the girls are there wondering whether this is true or not, whether the book really did exist or not. So they decide to join the drama society to see if there's any truth behind it. And when they do that, in the costumes department, they find this like trapdoor with the old drama teacher's name on it. They open it up, and in it, they find this book of secrets. And then they want to investigate more whether any of these secrets came true. So they see all these secrets within the books. They go along to the Shadow Hall, I think it's called Shadow Hall Sentinel, so the newspaper of the school, to access the archived newspapers. And as they do this, they find all these articles that are related to the secrets in the book. So like a girl says that she is in love with this boy, and then this boy, there's an article about this boy, missing boy, that suddenly turns up just in the grounds of the school, and he was from over 50 miles away. They don't know how he got there. He was in his pajamas and dressing gown. He wasn't sure either. There was a story of a girl who had left her rabbit's hutch open. The rabbit died, and then all these rabbits appear at the school. So quite creepy, quite sinister. And this is something that Phil Hicks does really well. His books are always really sinister. So the setting is quite stereotypical. In its like plotting, it feels like that spooky atmospheric setting that has everything you want for that. The girls then decide to test this book to see if it's real. So they write secrets. So initially Lillian writes quite a harmless one, that she doesn't like carrots. And then I think it's a few days later, the menu appears for what the girls will be having that dinner, and everything has carrots in it. Then the secrets the girls write start to get a bit darker. So one of them writes that she doesn't like spiders. She wakes up covered in spiders. Another one writes that she doesn't like the dark, and then there's a power cut. And then the girls start to get a bit creeped out at this point, and they want the book gone. So Lillian says that she will go and hide it back where they found it, and they'll never kind of talk of it again. As she does that, the book compels her to write one more secret about herself. And she writes that she had an imaginary friend as a child. Needless to say, this imaginary friend comes back to life and is not as friendly as Lillian perhaps had remembered. And then the kind of book continues with how they deal with that. It's spooky, it's creepy, it's everything you want in a ghost horror thriller story. I think it's pitched perfectly at the kind of older primary age child. Would be great for like year 7 and 8 as well in secondary school. It's really short as well. It's less than 200 pages. So again, quite good for reluctant readers as well, I would say. And it's very fast, like nothing is dragged out in any way. Especially considering it's a horror, there's not that much build up. So again, you're thrown straight into the action. It's not that long to read. It's everything you'd want in a spooky horror story. I'd say it's not particularly jumpy, but I wouldn't recommend this to children that don't like horror, because I think it might give them nightmares, especially the creepy imaginary friend. But yeah, really, really good. I think perfect for the number of kids that are really into spooky stories at the moment. Also think it'd be quite good for your book clubs if you run adult book clubs as well. Then we have the last of our fiction ones for Feb, which is Mondays Are Murder. So this is the third Raveena Guron book. Her books are all standalone, so they can be read in any order, and this is a murder mystery. So this is about a girl called Kay, who goes to stay with her uncle and her cousin, and when she does so, there's a note on her bed that details all the days of the week and what is going to happen on those days of the week. So a thrill on Tuesday, wreckage on Wednesday, treachery on Thursday, a fire on Friday, sabotage on Saturday, stabbing on Sunday, and her murder on Monday. And it's up to Kay and her cousin to figure out who is behind these threats before she gets murdered on the Monday. As you would expect with a Raveena Guron book, there are so many twists and turns. There are some really great secondary characters in this. So Kay used to live in the town that her cousin and uncle live in, and she left after a tragedy. Her family moved away, and now she's back. So she's reconnecting with her old friends. She doesn't know who to trust. You don't know who she should trust either. And you're constantly trying to work out who is behind these threats. They keep leaving her more messages, and each of the days what she has been threatened with is coming true. So you are building up to this murder on Monday. I didn't predict who was the murderer. I've never been able to predict who's the murderer in any of her books. I usually can predict in books what happens, but she's so good with her clues, with her kind of tricking you the whole way through the book. And it was just, I read it very quickly because it's just brilliant. It would be absolutely perfect for your book groups. It'd be great for any secondary school events, any teen readers. I feel like just love Raveena Guron. So I think it is a must-have for your events, just in case you've got a teenager that wants something great and something gripping to read. Although the cover looks potentially more female because there's two girls on it, I would say it's very, very neutral to read. Actually, same as this one. Although all the main characters are female, very, very neutral to read, I would say. So I think this would appeal equally to boys and girls. And just, yeah, I think it's her best one yet. Like, really great plot, really great characters. I loved the structure of like, this will happen on each days and you follow the week with Kay as she goes along. Yes, would love to know if any of you guessed the twist, because I definitely didn't. So that is Mondays Are Murder. Then we have got this one, which is Usborne Facts of Life Growing Up. So this is a book that, unlike the other books, is not gender specific, which I think is great for children to learn what is happening to the opposite sex as well. So you have got a contents page. So again, kids can work out what it is that they want to know more about, flick to that page straight away. And it goes through everything from the science of what happens to you. It talks about your brain, it talks about your hormones, it talks about the changes that you'll experience, it talks about these are all the physical changes that it's going through. It talks about the different sex organs, periods, which I think is helpful for boys to know just as much as girls. It talks about male sex organs. It talks about all the things that boys might experience. It does talk about sex, and it goes through both same-sex and heterosexual sex. It goes through how babies are made, goes through birth control, STIs, goes through relationships, crushes, orientation, consent, kind of anything gender versus sex, anything you could possibly want to know, I think is covered. Looking after your body, loving your body, your mind as well, keeping clean, all the things that might happen to you, online safety. I think it covers the lot. There's links to quick links in case you want to know more. You've got a glossary of terms as well, which I always think is super helpful. You've got an index again if there's something that you wanted to find that you couldn't find in the contents page that you just want to go to quickly. So this is the kind of like complete guide to puberty, clear, accessible information for all children's recommended for children aged 10 upwards who've just begun their journey into puberty or are likely to start soon. It was written in consultation with experts in sex education and gender studies alongside doctors as well. So you can be confident that the information given is completely accurate and appropriate and kind of what is needed for children to learn. So I think must have for school libraries, and to be honest, I think must have for any child that is about to experience their stage of their life. And I just think it's useful to have all the information about both sexes in one place. And it's £7.99, so I think that's really good value as well. Next up is this one, which is very first question and answers. Why do I worry? So this series has numerous titles in it that are focused on children's emotions, and the author Katie Danes produced it in consultation with an expert, but she also asks parents what questions children are asking, so it's matched to real questions that children ask and real answers to them. So they follow quite a similar structure, all of these books. So you start off by the topic and identifying what it is, so what are worries, and you've got the flat to lift to go through. And again, they are very focused on children of this age group, so kind of like a fear of dogs, a fear of the dark, monsters under your bed, talking about does everyone worry and confirming that everyone worries, but it just might be about different things that they worry about. And again, like really relevant things that kids are scared of, like the dark, hand dryers, loud noises, going to a party, I thought was a really interesting one as well. Looking at empathy, so signs of how you can tell that your friends might be worried and also maybe how you can help them too. Talks about where worries come from. Again, like really realistic worries, like doing something new, and things that like maybe we could dismiss too easily as adults, but that children genuinely are concerned about. Again, should I be worried? I quite like that it tells you actually a worry can be useful if it warns you that something's wrong, because then you can do something about it. But then also looks at if you can't change something, you need to let those worries go, otherwise they'll be overwhelming. And some lovely advice at the end of the book of what you can do with your worries to help you feel better about them. So they tend to end on that. So you kind of follow the structure of like what the thing is in the first place. You go through it in detail, and then it looks at the positive of what can you do about it at the end, which I think is really helpful and positive. And finally, this book, which my 3-year-old is absolutely obsessed with. So great big dinosaurs with great big flaps. And the clue is in the title. So it goes through all different kinds of dinosaurs. And what I love about this book is the flaps really help with the storytelling. So they are enormous. So like you've got this one. So underneath the flaps, obviously you've got more information about the dinosaurs themselves. But you open them at the same time, it really adds to the picture. So you get these kind of huge picture spreads and like scenarios involving the dinosaurs. The information, I think, is pitched perfectly at quite young children. Again, the flaps are really easy to lift for children. My son loves the fact that the flaps are so big as well. He was satisfied that all the dinosaurs that he was expecting to see within this book were there. You've got loads of interesting facts, like the T-Rex has teeth as long as the bananas. And I think it's like, what's it? Yeah, a fully grown T-Rex is about the length of a bus, but their arms are not much longer than a person's. And all I could picture was a bus with humans' arms on it. And again, you've got the flaps that kind of add to the storyline. And again, looking at kind of the dinosaurs, the flaps help the dinosaurs interact with each other, which I think is so clever as well. You've also got the timeline at the top of when these dinosaurs were on the planet. My son particularly enjoyed this page with the fish hiding from the dinosaur that was trying to eat them. And again, look at the lovely Diplodocus that again is interacting with the babies. And your Stegosaurus. And then at the end, it compares all the dinosaurs to each other as well. So it tells you how to pronounce the dinosaur names phonetically and gives you some information about their length as well. So you can compare them and work out which one is the biggest. And also that you've got the humans there as well. So you can compare the size of the dinosaurs to humans too. You've got a QR code on the back for links to websites about dinosaurs. And again, you can hear how to say their names. I think this would be a really, really great present for any child. And I think it does something that I've not seen another Usborne dinosaur book do. I think it is that interaction that the flaps provide, like they really add to the storyline. And I think it's just the clever way that the dinosaurs interact with each other because of the flaps in the books. And my son absolutely loves it. So if you want recommendations from a 3-year-old, it was a big hit with him. And we have been reading it ever since I brought it home. So that is Great Big Dinosaurs. And there is another one coming in this series as well, which I think is super exciting. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you're excited about the new books coming your way in February. I hope you've already got customers in mind for our Fab Focus books this month. Thank you.